Red Dice Diaries podcast, a rambling journey through the wonderful world of RPGs by a long-time GM and player. The music at the start of this podcast is Shinigami by Tarek, used under Creative Commons license. Okay, so today I'm going to get something off my chest that I've been thinking about for a fair while, and given the close down of Google Plus that I'm sure you must all be aware of now, it's closing down in August next year, if I remember correctly. I think it's about time to float this one out there, just to put a thought out to the listeners of the podcast. And that thought is, Google Hangouts is a bag of shit. We all know it. Now, don't get me wrong, it used to be good. There was loads of apps you could use on it. There were dice rollers. It pretty much had everything you wanted if you wanted to run a game online. It was all there in one. It was great. It was easy to get into. You could just send a link to all your players. They'd all jump into a chat. It was easy to work. You could have your dice rollers there. You could do your overlays. Fantastic. Great. Okay, yeah, it was a bit of a resource hog. The video sort of feed was never exactly what you'd call reliable. There were a few little hardware glitches, but it was worth putting up with them because you got all these apps and all this cool stuff that just made it easier to run games online. And pretty much anyone who ran games online, Hangouts was the dealio. Now, that all changed. I can't even remember how long ago it was now. It's going to be a good few years when Google decided that they were going to shut off the API that people had been previously using to create apps, and they were going to just focus more on their sort of business users and stuff like that. So for us non-business users, what we effectively got after that, and what we still have now, is a sort of neutered version of the previous software. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a resource hog. It's still fairly unreliable. Pretty much the only thing it has going for it at the minute is that it's still easy to get people into a Hangout. You can still just send people a link in like Facebook Messenger or whatever your social network of choice is. They can click on it and they can get straight into the actual chat. So what have we got as alternatives instead? Well, you've got Skype, which, if you can get past the annoyance of Skype constantly asking you to upgrade to the latest version, seems to work okay. Yeah, there's a few reliability issues there. Can't say I'm a massive fan of the new user interface, but you know, you can get used to it. That's absolutely fine. The one real thing for me, which is why I've not really gone for Skype, is that I find when I'm trying to use OBS, open broadcasting software, to stream or record my actual plays for the various game sessions I'm running, it just doesn't work with the new version of Skype, to the point where I've had to uninstall that and reinstall an old version. And then again, every time you start it up, it's like,
oh, this old version of Skype is discontinuing soon. Would you like to upgrade to the new version?
And unfortunately, there's no box which says, which you can click, that says, no, the new version is a bag of w***. So you're just stuck with it. The other possibility is Discord, which is great. It's reliable. It's great for audio. However, they only just started getting their sort of video stuff up and running, and I gather it's not that brilliant, although I can't claim to have studied it in any great detail. So they're pretty much your choices as far as like free video broadcasting and sort of conferencing goes. Now, for me, I've actually ended up, after trying out using Zoom, which is an option that at least one of you who's using it, the person who's hosting it, has to pay for. After using it in Andre Martinez's D&D game, I actually went out there and podded out to have a Zoom account. And that was because after like messing around with Hangouts and Skype and all the trouble that they've caused, it's worth that amount of money just to have a program with a fairly slick user interface. It's not a resource hog. It's quite reliable. We've only had a very couple of minor technical difficulties, and because the company is making money out of it, they have an incentive to actually solve any problems with it. Whereas, as we know, Google has a very sort of manana approach to dealing with problems. Now, for the longest possible time, a lot of people have responded to any criticism of Google Hangouts by going,
oh, well, you can't criticise it too much. After all, it's free.
Now, I don't agree with that at all. Just because something is free does not mean, if it's of poor quality, that it shouldn't be criticised. And I think Google Hangouts, it's by far not the best video conferencing facility that's free. If you want that, you can probably get and you're not bothered about running games or broadcasting, Skype's probably better. If you want audio only, Discord is certainly better, although it doesn't run on some older machines. And if you're willing to pot out a bit of money and you want something that's nice and slick, then Zoom is absolutely miles ahead of Hangouts. So there we go. If you're planning on running a game online, if you're not recording it, I'd recommend give Skype a go. If you're not bothered about the video so much, try Discord. And finally, if you've got a few readies and you're willing to pod them out, or you do want to record, I highly recommend using some combination of like Zoom and OBS or something like that. And hopefully you'll arrive at some solution that'll work for you. Unfortunately, no one's really sort of nailed that free sort of video conferencing that works really well and has apps for gaming yet. We did have it back in the old days with Google Hangouts on air and stuff like that with all the apps, but unfortunately no longer. Let's hope maybe someone picks up that ball in the future and runs with it. So that's it for this episode. If you have any questions or suggestions for things you'd like to see in the podcast in future, please either email them to reddicediaries@gmail.com or drop me a voicemail at Anchor. Until I see you next time, wherever you're playing, take care and enjoy yourselves.